Oh boy, I love Revit so much. It is Autodesk's answer for architectural design. And if you are using Revit or have an interest in using Revit, I would like to be your personal Revit guru, the Revit guy that you turn to for all of your needs. Today we're going to talk about phasing in Revit. That was weird. Phasing is a very important process that you can use to denote existing, new construction, and different phases of building throughout the process of your life cycle for the construction that you're working on. You can set every object in the Revit software to a different phase, and each view that you create can have a certain phase established for it, meaning that you can show only certain parts of the building within each phase, within each view, for each object. It can get very complex depending on how many phases you add to it, but it can be used in very simple ways for different purposes. Let's take a look at it. Looking at this project, we have an existing building with some new construction content and also different phases included. You have existing, demolition, temporary content, and new construction. All of this information can occur within actually two different phases between existing and new construction, and different modifications between those different phases. Each view has the ability to have, in the properties window, a phasing section, and the phase is set to either new construction currently or with the drop-down list to existing. When existing is displayed, it shows only existing content as existing to remain and demolition content. So you can see that both of those look exactly the same, as well as the rest of the building. Changing the phase option from existing to new construction changes to a future state where you see all of the other phases included: existing, demolition, temporary, and new construction. Whichever phase the view is set for will be automatically chosen when new content is created. So choosing the wall tool, creating an exterior wall section, bringing that over here, will generate an existing exterior wall. Again, every object has the ability to have a phasing type set for it. Looking at this wall, the properties says phase created is existing. Phase demolished equals none. We'll get into that in a moment. I can add interior walls, doors and windows, rooms, all of this information now shows as an existing building. So this would be as if you were walking up to a project before any modification was started for this building's modification. You must bring in all of the existing content that is going to be adjusted and modified and utilized or interfaced with from the project inside of your Revit software. It has to exist in the existing condition for the phasing to take place. Now, in this view, I will change the properties of the view from existing to new construction. Notice how the view options change so that the existing content has a grayed out tone and the outline of the objects are bluish color. Now, when I add new content, it's going to show as a new construction visual style. I can select interior wall types. Maybe there is a new demising wall that is coming across the building shown here. As I zoom in, you can see that that has a dark black outline for this wall, which is different than the existing wall. When I add a door or other objects, it automatically makes a modification to the building where it creates a new door inside of this existing wall. The red part here is actually a demolished portion of that existing wall. Revit is smart enough to understand that if you are placing a new door inside of an existing wall, it must be demoed in that section for the new door to be placed. So that existing information, adding it as a demoed section, is already a phase change. Adding windows causes the same option. You are creating a punched opening inside of an existing space, and it knows that a demolished area is required. Any new doors or windows that I add into the new construction wall will show as normal, because that door is adding itself into a wall that has not been placed yet. Going to the Modify tab, Geometry panel, there is a tool in the lower right hand corner called the Demolish tool. It looks like a hammer, which is kind of a joke. I think that's funny. Click on the Demolish hammer, and any object that you click on from the existing area will be automatically added as a demolished content. When I click on this wall, notice that the door is automatically included in the demolished section, because doors and windows and other wall-hosted objects are all part of the same object for the wall. So if the wall is being demolished, the door must be demolished unless you change it to be different, but the wall being removed will automatically remove the door as well, because it's part of the same object hosted into the wall's content. What you're actually doing when you're making these modifications is when I select this object for the wall, scroll down and look at the properties, it says phase created is existing, phase demolished is new construction. Each of these options can actually be changed, so I can actually create this new existing wall as a new construction wall, and it changes to a blue wall type, which is temporary. Change that back to existing, and it's existing to be demolished. The other option is phase demolished, which is set to new construction. Setting it to none means that this wall is not being demolished from existing, and it's meaning that it's existing to remain. When I change that to demolished in the new construction phase, that means that within the new construction, this wall will be part of the demolition. Using that hammer tool, it automatically tells that wall to turn on this option for phase demolished equals new construction. Basically, if you have multiple phases after existing, it will demolish the object in the next phase following it. You can create multiple phases other than just existing in new construction. That is just by default. Coming over to this section, if I wanted to create another wall as an interior partition, maybe we're going to wall off this area of the building as we are working on this section of the building, but this is a wall that is only going to be constructed temporarily. during the construction phase. This can be set to a temporary wall condition. If I look at the properties of the wall, it says that phase was created in new construction and the phase demolished is currently none. But if I change that to also being demolished in the new construction phase, that becomes a temporary wall condition. It's created in new construction and demolished within the new construction before the project is completed. That automatically means that this wall is a temporary wall, meant only during the construction phase to exist, and then it's removed after the construction phase is ended. Then I can come in here and say that this wall and this wall are going to be changed to be demolished in the new construction phase. And again, the same option occurs where the graphics change, causing that wall to become red and the door to be demolished as well. If I select this door and demolish in the new construction phase, you'll see something else new that happens. This door becomes a demolished door, but Revit also understands that an existing wall with a door being demolished will leave a hole, and you need to fill that hole with something, and it's actually adding a new construction portion of the existing surrounding wall type into this segment. So it does that automatically. Different from the option where creating a new door inside of an existing wall type will add a demolished wall portion. This demolished door adds a new construction portion of the existing wall type. So I'll place a new door next to that, maybe down here. So even if you are taking this door, removing it from this portion of the wall and moving that same door down here and inserting the existing door into this wall, all of this content still has to occur. You are moving the door from this portion to this portion. You are opening this door area up that has to be filled with a new construction wall. You are cutting a hole in the existing wall, demolishing a portion of the existing wall to add the new door in that location. So all of that is included in the phasing process of the Revit software. Going to the Manage tab, Phasing panel, choose Phases. This opens the Phasing dialog box. In here, you can create as many different phases in the project as you want to. Currently, you have existing and new construction. This information comes default in most template files where you have existing and new construction phases set. You can also insert new phases before or after the selected phase. So for instance, if between existing and new construction, I want to add some phases before, it creates phases 1 through 4. You can label those however you want. Again, labeling these are really just descriptions. They can be whatever you want to, and you can add descriptions next to that to spell out more specifically what that phase would include. However, I can share with you the more phases that you add to the Revit project, it's going to make the phasing process more complex and complicated, because each phase is responsible for an adjustment in the objects themselves, and as you make modifications to creation and demolition, the demolished content must be created in one of the existing phases or one of the phases in the project, and it must be created within one of those phases. If it's in different phases, it may get confusing on where it's located, how the phasing and the process of the project is generated. If you have specific phases in the building's construction that makes sense to use multiple phases, go ahead and use that. But if it is a base project that you're working on and it's going to be completed in one condition, using the new construction and existing phase makes the most sense. Only using multiple phases when it is required. If you add more phases than you need, You can remove those phases by choosing Combine With. Notice there is no option to delete. That means that any information that is on any of these phases already will automatically be combined with whichever phase you choose. So if you say combine with previous or combine with next, combine with next means that this phase combined with next automatically gets included in new construction phase. So any content that is created within that phase automatically gets applied to that other phase that you're establishing. And yeah, I'm going to continue to do this to remove all the other phases that I just added. Going to the next tab, Phase Filters, we'll look at this in a moment of how this applies to the view. It looks very complex, but it's actually fairly simple after you read the description. The graphics of the phase can be set as well. In here you have existing, demolished, new construction, and temporary. These are actually graphics that you can establish for each phase of the view. So notice that existing has a light blue projection line and a dark blue thick line in the cut line. It also has a fill pattern of a light gray color. That is why the existing material shows as a light gray color down here. Demolished shows as a dashed red line, a thicker dashed red line in the cut pattern, and a diagonal red hatch pattern. New construction is currently a solid green color. Temporary is a blue color with a dashed line and a thicker dashed line under the cut pattern. That is how these colors are established between the red and blue and gray coloring for the phasing sections based on this dialog box. This is applied for the entire project. Any phases that you establish in your project are completely global within that project. You cannot have certain phases for each view. They are all-encompassing throughout the entire project. Coming back to this view, I will now look at the phase filtering options. The phase must be set to the later phase type. If you establish this under existing, notice how everything returns back to its previous position, where only the existing content is shown. The view must be set to the new construction so that all of the future phases are displayed. In the phase filter drop-down list, you have a number of options. Again, this looks confusing, but it actually does make sense. When it says show none, it shows no graphical modifications for any of the phase settings. All of the coloring of the view looks exactly as it would for the new construction completed project. For the coloring to make more sense, you can use the drop-down list and choose show all. That's where you get the coloring between demolished, temporary, existing, and new construction. Show complete means that the project is completed entirely. It removes any graphics changes from existing to remain and new construction, and it's as if the project is complete and you walked on the site, and that is how the project looks at the moment. Show demo plus new. This will only show demolished content, temporary content, and new construction content. Notice that the existing to remain is disabled. New content is only new construction content without any temporary or demolished content. New plus demo, existing to remain, demolished content, new construction. The only thing missing is temporary content. New and demo. New and temporary content. It shows new construction and temporary content only. Previous and demo is your existing to remain and your demolished content. This is your demo. Previous and new construction, it shows existing to remain and new construction in its graphical changes. includes the temporary content. Show previous phase shows only existing to remain without any of the graphics applied to the other types. Let's go back to the Manage tab, Phasing panel, and choose Phases. Under the Phase filter, all of those different options that we just looked at are in this list. Under Filter Name, you can create new versions of these, you can delete existing ones, you can have as many of these phase filters as you want. The filter name is merely a description on how that filter applies and what it is showing. Options over here are going to be part of the list for as many phases that are added. If there are more phases created in the project other than existing in new construction, those will also show up here in a list of more options to the right. Each one of these options can be set to by category, overridden, or not displayed. By category means that it will show exactly as the Revit view is set for that object. Overridden will take you to this dialog box for graphic overrides, and it will apply any of the changes that are set for these objects. Not displayed means that it's turned off or hidden in that view type. So if we look at something like demo and new construction, this means that new construction is by category, existing is overridden, demolished is overridden with the graphics, and temporary is not displayed, so it means it's turned off. Your demo plan, new construction is not displayed, existing is overridden, demolished is overridden, and temporary is not displayed. With this dialog box, you can set any of the view properties that you want to for each filter type, defining any phasing set that you want. Rooms within the phasing conditions are frustrating to use, I will tell you that. Rooms can only exist in one phase of the project. They will not transition to new phases of the project. It actually does make sense of why that occurs, because if this room exists here, combined and surrounded by this wall location, if there's another wall outside of that, how does Revit know where this room ends and starts between each phase? So the way this works is that Revit requires different rooms to be created in each phase type. One way that I like to do this is I will take a copy of the rooms that already exist, selecting all of those rooms, go to the Modify tab, copy to clipboard, and then I will go to the next phase. I will change the view from existing to new construction phase. Again, all of that content is still here, but there are no rooms in this area. The rooms only exist, or are only occurring in the existing phase. I'm going to come back to the Modification tab and choose Paste to Same Place, and this updates the information. Now the rooms themselves are automatically confused because some of this information is coming from different phases of the project. Tagging these rooms, it does show the same naming convention, but if I look at the properties of this room, it says phasing, and the phase is new construction, and it is grayed out. Rooms are possibly one of the only objects that does not have the option to change its phase. It must be created in the phase that it's currently in, and it cannot be modified. Notice that it's ignoring this temporary wall and the existing wall, only bounding itself to the new construction wall type. It's only bounding itself to the new construction wall type. So it actually ignores any existing to remain content, even though the room bounding option is turned on for it. But that does give you the option to create a brand new roomscape for all of your modifications for the redesign of the project. So that it's absolutely something to contend with when you're using phasing in the project. I will turn off rooms as the category for a moment to be less distracting right now. Then I'm going to move down here to this portion of the building. Change the view filter back to show all. Once again, you have differences in the view types for demolished, existing to remain, temporary, and new construction. Going to a 3D view, you can actually see all of that information as well inside of the 3D view. Notice that the hatching is applied to the objects themselves, and based on the view properties, the temporary wall and demolished wall are shown as transparent, so I can actually see through them. You can create as many objects within each phase as you want. Every object has a phasing set established for it, and the project can have a life cycle from start to finish and any state of change in between. I hope you enjoyed that little excerpt from the Revit software on creating and placing walls and creating wall types. Please join us next time for more information from the Revit software. Continue to join. Check out our previous videos below. Comment below and tell us more information you'd like to see covered in the Revit software. Like and subscribe to this channel so you can get the latest updates for each time that we post new videos and tutorials on how to use the Revit software. Don't miss it.